Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad you're with us on the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We have good, bad, and crazy martinis for you today. And Jim, we've gone over this rule of the Three Martini Lunch many, many times. We don't celebrate grievous injury and death unless it's terrorists or people who are connected to or actually are brutal, genocidal, repressive dictators. And so it was just a couple of months ago, maybe even less than that, that we talked about a key leader of Hezbollah connected to the 83 Marine Corps barracks bombing being eliminated by Israel, as well as the political leader of Hamas taken out at basically a hotel room in Tehran. Israel not officially claiming responsibility for that one, but use your best judgment. Now today, simultaneously, 1,000 pagers all in the hands of Hezbollah operatives and others connected to the terrorist organization in Lebanon. Well, they went off, but not the normal way. So 1,000 different injuries, according to some reports, actually up to maybe 10 dead. And so, Jim, once again, we've got this ingenious situation where Israel somehow manages to hack into this network of pagers that Hezbollah is still using. I guess they think it's still the mid-90s. But nonetheless, they hack into this network and figure out a way to not only have them all go off at the same time, but all blow up at the same time. So I'm sure this is going to make Hezbollah not very happy, but they're going to be doing it one-handed, I guess.
The surviving members of Hezbollah will not be happy. It's not all bad news for Hezbollah. So far today, there is an announcement that the unused family plan minutes can roll over to next month. So they'll be able to keep using the current plan. So, and look, Greg began by saying we do not take pleasure in the suffering of others. And Greg is a good person. Greg does not. I, on the other hand, the video footage of one person after another. It seems like a lot of them are in the grocery stores, at least two. Just the feel-good video of the year. And what it is look, these are bad guys who have it coming. I would point out that not just known members of Hezbollah, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, Mojtaba Amani, suffered a minor injury when a pager exploded. No, according to the Fars news agency over in Iran. No word on whether it was his pager or he was close to someone who had a pager, but nonetheless, an Iranian official being injured by the pagers. For those wondering, why are Hezbollah using pagers? Apparently, there was concerns about the security of the cell phone network and that the Israelis were going to trace them through the location of their cell phones. So they decided to go to pagers and the classic of 1990s drug dealers technology to do that instead. Didn't work out for. Let's face it. Look. There is no setting that if I press send on my text, it's not going to make the pager on the other end explode. There had to be explosives put into them at the source and then provided to Hezbollah and all of its networks and all of its supporters. So first of all, I do feel like maybe in retrospect, Greg, we did make too much of the supply chain problems in 2021 and into 2022. This is a worse supply chain problem. But hey, remember I got you that great deal on pagers? It turns out the salesman did not have our best interests at heart. They did not fall off the back of a truck. There was not something like that. But look, talk about precise strikes. Obviously, these will not be fatal strikes in a lot of cases, but 1,000 going off. Downtown, there's footage of downtown Beirut and basically guys on bikes driving along when their side explodes. So it's chaos all over Lebanon right now. Ordinarily, we're not happy with that, but this seems like a very precise hit on a whole bunch of bad guys. Could be any. Who are we kidding? This was the Israelis and the Mossad, and kudos and well done. We should, however, be aware of all of the victims. Apparently, one girl was killed. There is a chance that you're going to get somebody caught as unintended victims of these sorts of things. And let's take a moment and pause to think about all of the Israelis who may pull muscles from laughing so hard at today's events.
Well, you pointed it out, but I guess we should say it officially. The Israeli military declined to comment on this story on Reuters inquiries about the detonation. So
could have been anybody.
Comment. Yeah, it really could have. Really could have been anybody. So we'll see what the impact is on that. Hezbollah, of course, causing all sorts of trouble in the northern parts of Israel over the last year or so. And we're getting pretty close to the 1-year anniversary of the Hamas attacks on Israel. So who knows what the terrorists had in mind for that. They love anniversaries. And if any of these people were involved in that, maybe they're on the sidelines and they got to rethink things or even cancel plans, which would be great. So anyway, a lot to process for Hezbollah. But when it comes to processing, you need a lot of speed because artificial intelligence might be the most important new computer technology ever. It has the potential to transform every industry, altering the way we work, live, and interact with the world. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. But how do you compete without your costs spiraling out of control? The answer is to take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/martini.
It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI offers a complete range of cloud services to meet your needs, whether it's on-premises, hybrid, multi-cloud, or public. Its global network and flexible options tackle your toughest business challenges. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, with 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, and all at one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing.
Now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. So you can do more and spend less, just like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic. Take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/martini. That's oracle.com/martini. oracle.com/martini. All right, Jim, Hillary Clinton is emerging. If she sees her shadow, I guess we have 6 more weeks of campaigning. But no, she's got a book out, of course, timed with the election season, and she decided to do a very hard-hitting, controversial interview. So, of course, she headed to the studios of MSNBC for that, and a couple of doozies here. But the main one we're going to focus on here is that Hillary Clinton believes that the mainstream media is not consistently negative enough about Donald Trump. Here's what she says. You guys got to be doing a better job of pushing this narrative day after day.
And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it.
Every time I hear Hillary Clinton speak, I'm reminded how much I don't miss her. But Jim, in terms of this idea that most of the media doesn't do enough to paint Donald Trump in a consistently negative light, I'm not sure what more it could do. But apparently Hillary's not happy because she probably blames them for not being consistently negative enough 8 years ago.
I should point out, this is Hillary Clinton's first memoir since 2017. So I look forward to everything that's happened in her life in the last 7 years or so. And I don't know about you, I can't wait to not read it. The other thing that kind of comes out of this is like, if you're Hillary Clinton, if you're Kamala Harris right now, are you turning to your staff and saying, somebody, put a hood over her head, throw her into a van, and keep her locked in a basement until after the election? Because, first of all, I'm going to take your advice, Hillary. You're the one person on earth who's lost to Donald Trump. All I need to do is not be like you, right? Now some people are going to think, oh, I'm a woman candidate. That means I'm already starting with this disadvantage. Right now, you are 0 for 1, and you're never getting up to bat again, all right? I have a shot here. I'm going to, trust my own judgment, thank you. And the complaint that, the media isn't tough enough on Trump. There is one context you could say that's a passable or defensible argument. And that was in the Republican primary of 2016, and the run-up to it, that the media was fascinated with Donald Trump. And remember the images of CNN of the empty podium waiting for Trump's speech to start. They loved it when he was bashing other Republicans. And I believe it was Les Moonves who said, I don't know if Trump is good for America, but he's great for CBS and their ratings. So if you want to make that argument, but that's not what she's saying right now. And I don't think you can look at the media environment right now and say, the problem is they're just too easy on Trump. Really? Nothing we do on this podcast, and I think we do a really darn good one, and the numbers are up and very healthy, and it's great to know, but nothing we do or say is going to have nearly as much reach as the blatantly false claim that J.D. Vance had sex with a couch, right? In that kind of media environment, you think the problem is that everybody's too nice to Trump and to Vance and other Republicans? This is really kind of laughable. And like I said, to the extent people notice, I think this is actually not helpful to Kamala Harris and the Democrats. Hillary Clinton is just a bad dream that they just want to forget about. They just want to, you know what they want to do, Greg? They want to move on.org.
No doubt about it. I don't understand why Democrats don't loathe Hillary Clinton. They cleared the field in 2016 for her.
They don't want to say it, but they do.
Outside of Bernie, who was supposed to be a speed bump, not like a mortal threat to her nomination, the rest was Jim Webb and Lincoln Chafee, and she still managed to barely win the nomination. And then, she thought she had the presidency on cruise control until she didn't. And then she blamed everyone except herself. Well, she blamed herself, but very vaguely. She never actually said what mistakes she made, but then she blamed Jim Comey and the FBI and the Electoral College and women obeying their husbands and on and on and on. Everything else was a possible reason except for her own campaign's mistakes. But then she said this yesterday in the MSNBC debate because she's still very upset about the misinformation that she at least claims, Russia, cost her the 2016 election. And now she says there needs to be a penalty for misinformation.
And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
We've been over this a million times. The freedom of speech, while not intended to protect lying, does in many cases. And of course, what the Democrats consider misinformation might not actually be misinformation. So, Jim, on this Constitution Day, it's good to know that Hillary Clinton's not president of the United States and trying to jail everyone who says stuff she doesn't think is true or even helpful to her.
Greg, I will meet her halfway. I will agree that the government should be allowed to put you in prison for 1 year if you claim to have dodged sniper fire in Tuzla in the Balkans. Let's point out, Donald Trump has dodged more sniper fire than Hillary Clinton has, okay? That's not misinformation. Oh, okay. All right. That doesn't count.
All right. Well, there's a lot of meat on that bone. But look, when you want the best possible meat, it's the Moink box that will show up on your porch with what you ordered to come in it. I love their bacon, the best bacon I've ever had. No joke, as Joe Biden would say, but I also love the steaks and the pork and the lamb and the chicken. You decide what's in it and you're going to love it.
Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught Alaskan salmon straight to your door. Moink farmers farm like our grandparents did, and as a result, Moink meat tastes like it should, because the family farm does it better. It's a difference you can taste, and you can feel good knowing you're helping family farms stay financially independent. You choose the meat that gets delivered in every box, from ribeyes to chicken breasts to pork chops to salmon fillets and so much more. And I don't understand why you'd ever want to, but remember, you can cancel anytime.
Yeah, I don't agree with Shark Tank host Kevin O'Leary a lot on the show. I basically agree with him that Moink's bacon is the best bacon we've ever tasted. Oh, and I agree with him that Justin Trudeau is a terrible Prime Minister of Canada. But keep American farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/martini right now. And listeners of the 3 Martini Lunch get free hot rolls in your first box. They're the best hot rolls you'll ever taste as well, but for a limited time. And it's spelled MOINK box.com/martini. That's moinkbox.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our crazy martini now. And this one was incredibly predictable. If you go back to the first night at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, the primo hour, the 10 to 11 Eastern Time hour, was largely taken up by the head of the Teamsters Union, a guy named Sean O'Brien, with Trump sitting right there. First time Trump had appeared, I believe, in public since his shooting a couple days earlier. It was also the same day he chose J.D. Vance to be his running mate. Sean O'Brien comes in, gives Trump props for his response to being shot and throwing the fist in the air and saying fight and showing that he's a tough SOB, as O'Brien put it. Now, the Teamsters appear to be on the brink of an endorsement that the Hill reports could come as soon as Wednesday. And this is what O'Brien told reporters yesterday. Quote, "We've done some research-based polling that we will be presenting to the General Executive Board. All 3 of those polling models on Wednesday, and then we'll deliberate and a decision will be made." O'Brien says Joe Biden's been great for unions. Joe Biden's, obviously done a lot of work, and we want to make sure that that work is carried on by whoever. He also called Harris a very polished person and said, quote, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between Harris and Biden. He also said that whoever they endorse, Jim, would need to protect the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, which destroys freelancing because it makes everybody give you full benefits if you do any work for them, and veto any national right to work, which is a prominent point of his terrible speech in Milwaukee. So after all of this groveling and hand-holding through the convention season, the Teamsters look like they're about to line up with Kamala anyway.
That is utterly infuriating. I remember watching the Sean O'Brien speech at the Republican National Convention. And first of all, we should point out that traditionally is the slot for the keynote speaker. I don't know if it was touted as the keynote speech at the convention, but it certainly was given about as prime a spot as you can possibly get by convention organizers. And by convention organizers, like the Trump campaign basically was able to dictate all of this. Now, if there was some backdoor handshake deal, we'll give you this prominent speaking slot, and in return, the Teamsters endorse Trump, maybe it's worthwhile. Maybe if that's what it takes to get you those, blue wall states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Maybe there's a logic to it. But if you don't get the endorsement, and in exchange they give you a pile of magic beans, well, then you got taken to the cleaners. And we should point out that that was a speech that was very long on how great unions are. Very little on how great Republicans are, which you kind of think would be front and center at a Republican convention. Yes, he did say Trump was a hell of a tough guy, and I'm sure Trump loved that. But this is about after surviving the assassination attempt. And he pointed out stuff like praising Josh Hawley for changing his position on national right to work. Yes, he did that, and it's terrible. That's a bad thing. There should not be speakers at the Republican convention touting that. And in Wisconsin, where Scott Walker used to sit on a throne of skulls of all of the big labor folks who tried to really? We're just completely flipping on this? It's fair to ask, based on this, is the Republican Party still a right to work party? Or are we so desperate to chase the union vote, we now no longer support right to work? We now believe you should be forced to join a union in a workplace if you don't want to. That certainly is what O'Brien made it sound like. So, and like I said, if the other thing is, if he had found more things to praise in the Republican agenda, I might have been it was protectionist, isolationist, and hooray for unions and anti-right to work. There was nothing conservative in that. There's nothing for me to root for in this. But even if you said it's really terrible, look, we let him give a terrible speech that's completely against most of the traditional conservative economic agenda, but in exchange we get the endorsement and we win the blue wall states. Okay, I could see that logic. We'll see what happens. At this point, it sounds like it's a 50-50, which is not what you just gave him a huge concession. You just gave him everything he wanted, and he's coming back with a maybe? My God, if this shakes out, the Trump campaign got taken to the cleaners and the Republican Party. And it's really embarrassing. And they should never do that stuff again.
Even staying out of it might have been a benefit, but it sounds like there's going to be endorsement one way or the other. And when you say we love Joe Biden and Kamala isn't any different than Joe, it's pretty hard to anticipate a decision other than they're going to get behind Kamala Harris. So, wow. Well, Jim, quite the day. As always, we'll do it again tomorrow. See you then.
See you tomorrow, Greg. I just also want to point out, this is not from the official Mossad Twitter account. It's from a satirical one, but it says, our apologies for not being available lately. We were paging people all day.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Those are a huge help to us. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch Podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a terrific Tuesday. Join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.